What's up, comic and pop culture fans? This is James with Hunter Comics, and today we're going to ask, what if you only had $100 to invest into comics? The first thing I'm going to tell you is that comic books are actually not a great investment. There are tried and true ways of investing your money, like a Roth, like a 401k, talk to a financial advisor. More than not, especially if you're entering the game, there's a lot of chance at losing your money. That being said, we all know that you can actually turn maybe $100 into $200 if you're a little savvy. So we're going to talk about that today. Before we do that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, comment down below. You could be a winner of an ASM 300. Speaking of our slab giveaway, I'll tell you that one of the first things I would not do is slab. Everyone thinks, especially entry people coming in, think if you had $100, you take a couple books, you get them graded, and you try to get that bump. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work that way. First of all, the gap between Rawls and the 9.8 equivalent is sort of shrinking. So slabs are quite down. If you have $100 to spend, the chance of you actually nailing a 9.8 on just a couple of books is probably pretty slim. Not to mention how long slabs will sit for before they finally sell. So we're not going to slab. I also would not put it into like a $100 mystery box. Sometimes mystery packs can be a little disappointing, and really you got like $50 disguised as $100. There are people out there who do $100 books that you're definitely getting at least $100. But we're talking about investment's sake. You really want to multiply that $100. There's a couple things here. Number one, check out DC Universe logo variant or any type of bullet logo variant or any sort of price variant, anything that you can find. Double cover, Mark Jewelers, any sort of weird oddball variation of a book. Try to hunt for them on eBay specifically, but don't just type in Canadian price variant, DC Universe logo variant. Those are going to be the ones advertised as such and will probably end up at their fair market value. Familiarize yourself with the DC comics that are known to have a DC Universe logo. Check those books out individually. See if someone just had the book, they didn't know that that's a DC Universe logo variant, and they've got it up at a bid ending in a couple hours at $1.99. Turns out it's actually a $15 book, maybe even $20. When I had a little more time on my hands, I used to do this where I would hunt down on eBay books that I knew had these variants, and sure enough, I would find them not by Googling DC Universe logo variant, but by just checking to see if anyone just had these books for many decades and just didn't know that it's that particular variant. There's other things like double cover, which you're probably not going to know from eBay. That's going to happen from checking out books in person. But I can tell you from personal experience, I've only seen a couple double covers in my hunting days, so it's probably not going to happen. Check out those books. See if there is some meat on the bone. You might be able to get a bunch of them and turn $100 maybe into $200 or more. Next up, head to your local comic book shop. Check the back issue bins of recent books that might have come in the shop. You're going to want to check for sexy artists. I don't know. I mean, maybe the artists themselves are sexy, but I'm talking about they draw specifically pinup style, sexy girl stuff really well. You're going to look for Adam Hughes, Art Germ, Jenny Frison, Nakayama, sometimes Frank Cho, Will Jack, J. Scott Campbell, Michael Turner, and more. Familiarize yourself with those artists and what their covers look like. Because a lot of times, those books that are being sold for $2.99, $3.99 actually have more like a $7, $8, and even $10 price tag just a couple years later, just because of who they are. Many Adam Hughes covers end up selling for $10 on the aftermarket, maybe even just like a year after it came out, if the cover's good enough. That's not entirely the case for all these artists, but that's definitely the case for him. It does seem to be often the case for J. Scott Campbell too, as well as I'm noticing a lot of Art Germ books getting a nice price tag in just a couple year later market. So if you're up for a little bit of a long-term game, I would kind of grab up those covers. You got You got that max budget, $100, cool. Give them a few years. Those are the ones that at least you can get your money back. You can always get at least cover price on those artists back, but most likely you're going to be able to get a little bit extra out of them. I have a local pull list, and I send my guy pretty much every week when the new books get announced. I look for those artists and I say, grab them up. I'm taking them. At least if I make my money back, cool. Maybe I make a little bit extra. We'll see. Next, I would search for slabs that are newsstands that are priced accidentally the same as direct editions. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I was walking in my local comic book shop last week, and there was an Amazing Spider-Man 328 sitting on the wall. He had just gotten it in. It was a 9.8, and he had a $95 sticker price on it. Here's the thing. The direct edition is $95 of that book. This was the newsstand. The newsstand fair market value is over $200. And I do this on eBay sometimes where I see, oops, someone put that at the direct price, and that's the newsstand. Check those. I bought that in 2 seconds. I took a scan of it, popped it up on eBay for the fair market value of the newsstand, and it sold in about a couple days. I literally doubled my money. Now, after eBay fees, I might have made $50, but I made $50. But check eBay, check Craigslist, check these Facebook groups, because sometimes you get these people just doing a quick search on the book and not seeing that, oh, they didn't look up the newsstand version of it. And a lot of books, especially towards the late 80s and definitely into the 90s and 2000s, have a considerably higher newsstand price than the direct edition. If you want to learn more about that, make sure to check out my direct edition newsstand video. It's a couple years old, but it's still the same information. And finally, the number one thing is going to be dollar bins. Maybe it's at the flea market, maybe you know a local, or maybe it's worth a drive to go to an LCS that has dollar bins. What you're going to want to do is familiarize yourself with some keys. Pull open the Key Collector app. They do a really good job of telling you what everything is. Spend a little bit, a couple hours, maybe even an afternoon there. Grab the 3s, the 4s, the 5s. Maybe you get lucky, you find some 8s, maybe you find some 10s. Sometimes they're in there. You guys have seen on my channel, there's one relatively close to me that I seem to be able to pull 5s out of at least on a very regular basis. In fact, like the last couple times I was there, I was able to actually walk out with an entire short box. If you buy 100 books for $100 and they're all averaging at a $5 fair market value because they were missed or small keys, you just made $400. Now that's best case scenario. Obviously you want to cut people a break, blah, 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 set up a yard sale. You might make 100 or 2, maybe 3. That's the surefire way of using comics to your advantage to possibly get a little bit more out of it. So check online. Sometimes people mislabel stuff. Sometimes they don't know what it is, and it might be something more special than what they thought. Sometimes you can find sexy pinup style covers, and artists that seem to just be like printing gold. I certainly hope those artists are keeping some file copies themselves if they only knew how much their own work is being sold for in the aftermarket. Search for slabs that are newsstands that accidentally got listed for the price of a direct, and find those dollar bins. They do exist across the country. Check them out. That's going to be the fastest way to turn $100 into 2. And as always, guys, if you got more ideas, drop it down below. Just remember, talk to a financial advisor. If you really want money to grow, there are smart ways of doing it. This is not a great way to make a lot of money. It isn't. And I might be surprising you by saying that, but there's so many mistakes you will make before you get to that point where you start making money. It might be one of the funnest, but it's certainly a far cry from the best. So be smart with your money, folks. And as always, keep on hunting. I'll see you at the next video. Make sure to come on down to Sentiment Depot's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 238 West Delaware Ave in Pennington, New Jersey. Find so many great books for just $1 and the lowest prices on key comics around. Enjoy a huge selection of graded comics priced up to 20% lower than current fair market value. We are open from Wednesday to Sunday, closed Monday, Tuesday. You got a collection you want to sell? Bring that too. Can't wait to see you there.